Every October for the last 3 years, I have done a spooky cinema series on this page, and I honestly cannot believe that I have been doing this through that long, but I love horror, and I recently attended Fantastic Fest in Austin, which was a really fun film festival that focuses on genre film and horror specifically, and I saw a lot of movies there. There was a lot of non-horror this year, but I saw a good amount of horror movies too, so I figured I'd do a roundup video of my quick thoughts on every horror film I saw at Fantastic Fest. Let's start with this guy, okay, because I had never seen a Terrifier film before. I kind of got the vibe that it was not going to be my thing, and so I just didn't feel the need to watch it, but I watched it at the festival, and it definitely was not my thing. I was correct. Everyone who knew me and knew my taste in film at all before going in was like, I don't think you're gonna like this. They were right. From what I hear from actual Terrifier fans, if you are a Terrifier fan, this was a little disappointing even to the people who like the franchise and that maybe I would have preferred too. But I found this gratuitous in a way that didn't feel fun. It just felt tiresome to me. Like, I don't know. The shtick got old really fast. I do think art has good, like, comedic physicality, but yeah, not my thing. The Rule of Jenny Penn is the film I saw down there, starring John Lithgow doing a New Zealand accent and also wielding this little creepy baby doll hand puppet thing. Jeffrey Rush is also in this movie. They both give really good performances, and I was interested in what the film was trying to get at, like what it was trying to say. It's more of like a psychological thriller than anything else. But I thought the pacing was a little bit off, and it was hard to stay engaged, honestly. It was not my favorite. Apartment 7A was my first, like, real disappointment of the fest. I was looking forward to this one. I think it's streaming on Paramount Plus now. It's a prequel to Rosemary's Baby starring Julia Garner, and it's, the director is someone I really like. Her previous film, Relic, I think is great. Her name is, Natalie Erica James. And I really was rooting for this one, but I do think it's just overall really derivative, and you don't want to invite comparisons to a movie like Rosemary's Baby. I think it's also really hard to make a movie like this that comes out the same year as Immaculate and The First Omen, which I have talked about how much I love, like, nonstop. So yeah, it was kind of disappointing. Okay, this one was a win for me. I think this one is coming to Amazon Prime in a couple of days. It's called House of Spoils, and it's starring Ariana DeBose. This movie is ridiculous. This movie is silly as hell. To me, it is camp. Okay, Ariana DeBose is like pushing her performance to 11 in a way that is so absurd. I also like horror that delves into like with food. I don't know. It's a thing that it's a crossover that I really like to see. But this movie is I was laughing nonstop. I think that this is a really silly, fun horror movie, and I think if you like silly horror, this is a win. Daddy's Head is a Shudder original, and it's genuinely fucking terrifying. Like I have not seen imagery in a horror movie this disturbing in a very long time. Like genuinely, like, it has very strong Babadook vibes, but not in a way that feels derivative. I do think that it's a very small story, which I think works really well. But the sheer, like, terror of what the creature in this movie looks like is something that I will not forget quickly. If you like horror, definitely watch this one. I'm gonna include Cloud on this list, even though it's more of a thriller than straight up horror, but it's by Kiyoshi Kurosawa, who's known for like Pulse and Cure, so I feel like it fits in the horror genre. This is a film that does not explain itself or really what's happening at all. If anything, it under-explains itself, but I feel like it really comes together at the end. It's got a good amount of like violence. It's got a good amount of like just creepy, ominous vibes, which is like totally on brand for Kurosawa. So I think that like if you're familiar with his work, this is definitely going to be up your alley. But my favorite horror film that I saw at the festival was actually an anniversary screening of The Guest, which came out I think 10 years ago, starring Dan Stevens and a very young Scream Queen, Micah Monroe. But this movie was so much fucking fun, and Dan Stevens is actually comedically hot in this movie. Like I'd never experienced a film where someone is so ridiculously attractive that you are just forced to laugh at the absurdity of how hot they are. And that's basically the entire runtime of this movie. He's also intensely capable. He's like a special ops guy. You gotta watch it. It's fucking, if you haven't seen it, this movie absolutely rules. And it's also insane how hot Dan Stevens is in this movie. Like, absolutely insane. Anyway, I'll have other videos about the non-horror movies I saw at Fantastic Fest up soon too, and more spooky cinema to come.